Okay, so what you're gonna do first is we are going to trace this lid onto our paper so that we can have a very perfect circle. When you're tracing, you wanna make sure that your pencil is touching the side of that lid and that your other hand is holding that lid very still. So I'm gonna hold this still, put my pencil right up against the edge of my lid and trace around it. You're gonna have to go all the way around it and you will have a perfect circle. So here's a little bit better view of that tracing, because it's really, really important that when you are tracing something, your pencil is touching your paper and the thing that you are tracing. Has to touch the very edge of that lid and your paper all the way around. So then you are going to get a little half sheet that has all the letters of the alphabet, and you are going to get a box of oil pastels. Now remember, oil pastels are kind of like crayons, except for they're a little bit juicier. So there are my oil pastels. What we're gonna do is, with different colors of oil pastels, we are going to write every letter of the alphabet inside of this circle. So you can start with A, or you can start with Z, or you can start with M or J or E. It doesn't matter as long as you have them all. So because this is a circle and there's no lines, we're not writing any sentences, we're gonna put our letters kind of all around our circle. Some of them will be upside down, some of them will be sideways. That is called variety. Some will be small, some will be big. Okay, so this is so that you remember which ones you have done. So I'm gonna show you kind of how we're gonna work. You can use whatever colors you want to, but you can only use one color at a time, okay? So I'm gonna start with a blue, and I'm gonna start at the beginning of the alphabet. You do not have to, but I am. So I'm gonna start with A. I'm going to write the letter A. Once you have written one of the letters, you can take your oil pastel and kind of cross it out. That way you know you have already done that one. Then you will put your oil pastel back into the box that it came from, and then you can pick out a new color. I'm gonna do B, but I'm not gonna do B right beside A. I'm gonna flip my paper upside down, and I'm gonna do B over here. There's my B. I'm gonna mark through B and put my oil pastel back. Next is C. I'm gonna get a new color. See, I'm gonna turn my paper a little bit. There's the C. I can mark off my C and put my oil pastel back. Let's see, I'll do a green, a D, and I will mark off the D. Put the green back. I do orange, an E. I'm gonna keep kind of turning my paper. There's my E, and I can mark off the E. Put my oil pastel back, get another color. Do F. Mark it off, and keep going. So I'm gonna finish up the whole alphabet, writing it, marking it, and putting my oil pastel back. You've gotta make sure that your letters are all scattered around everywhere, okay? So we're not writing them in a line. We want them to kind of look like they're floating, because remember, we're doing an alphabet soup. So we want them to look like they are floating around in our soup bowl. So I'm gonna keep going. I sped up the rest of this video so you can see how it looks. You can choose to do your letters uppercase or lowercase, or you can do some uppercase and some lowercase. It's totally fine, whatever you choose. Just remember to scatter your letters all throughout that circle that you traced. Spread them out. We really want them to look like they are floating in a soup bowl. Okay, so I have added all of my letters. I know I did all my letters because I marked through them every time I did one. I used a different color every letter. I made sure to put the oil pastel back where it came from after I used it. And now I am ready for the next step. Next, you're gonna get a container of water and a paintbrush. And then you're going to get a little tiny tray with some yellow paint. It's like a little container of paint. What we're gonna do is we're gonna paint yellow on top of our entire little plate or bowl of soup. So because we used oil pastel and we're gonna put watercolor paint on top, what will happen is the watercolor paint will be painted around all of your letters. And you can even paint on top of the letters and the water will go right around it. What happens is oil and water do not mix. So our oil pastels are kind of bossy. They say, hey, listen up here, Mr. Watercolor Paint. I was here first and you're not gonna paint on top of me. You are only gonna go around me. So what happens when we take our wet brush, get our paint, we gotta wet our paint to wake it up. So I'm just gonna kind of swirl it around. Now I have yellow paint on my brush. And what we can do is we can paint right on top of our oil pastels. I'm gonna get a little more water. That way it will spread around. And we're gonna paint all of our circle. Because we're using the same color, all you need to do is just get a little bit more water when your brush starts to run out of yellow paint. So you'll get a little more water, swirl it around your yellow, and then you can keep painting right on top of your oil pastels. So like I said, those oil pastels are bossy. When you paint on top of them, they're like, no way, you're not getting here. I was here first. And the paint goes all around it, all beside it, but it never really mixes with the oil pastel because the oil pastel is bossy. You will also notice that I am painting outside of my circle. I'm doing that because we're gonna cut these out, so that's okay if I go outside the lines a little bit. And there you have it, my friends. That is how we are going to paint in our soup bowls.